Dialing up Kevin Griffin of Better Than Ezra.
Hi.
Hey, Kevin, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I couldn't be better. It's a beautiful late October day in Nashville, so no complaints.
I was about to say, you guys started the band back in New Orleans, and then you lived in L.A. Now you're in Nashville, which I think Nashville is the new Austin, new Seattle. Either way, everybody's going there.
You know, it's everything. It's I moved here, like you said. Yeah, I'm from Louisiana. After Katrina, I left in 2005 and went to L.A. and was there until 2011, and moved here. I could just see the writing on the wall that Nashville was going to have a moment, and it's just such a great place to be if you're a musician, a touring musician. It's just it's a pretty magical place.
Yeah, I've got a couple buddies in the music industry that live up there. Cheney, who's with tour management, and my buddy George in Hollywood Undead, which is a metal band. And when he said
Cheney,
you know Cheney Moore?
I know Cheney. Yeah, he's with Collective Soul, and
yeah, I've known him for many, many years from radio back in Texas. We've been good buddies, so I kind of figure you might have run into him at some point.
Of course. Well, he was in the band, and then now he's road managing. At least he was.
Yeah. And I've got a buddy who's in a metal band, Hollywood Undead, that lives in Nashville. I was like, "You're moving to Nashville? What's going on?" He goes, "Man."
Well, I know. Yeah. Well, I know of the band. I don't know any of the guys, but who is that? Is that Alice Cooper and Depp and?
Yeah. No, it's Hollywood Undead. That's the Hollywood Vampires. Hollywood Undead is sort of a rap rock thing.
Well, you know, the vampires are the undead, so that was an easy mistake on my part.
No, absolutely. They're pretty damn close.
They're very close. Well, man, let's do it.
Yeah. You were talking about how you took off from New Orleans shortly after Katrina. We just had the back-to-back hurricanes down here, so you know what it's like to recover from stuff like that.
I was feeling for you. You know, I also do a music festival in Franklin, Tennessee called Pilgrimage Festival. We celebrate our 10th year while Helene swirled over the top of us. And I was tracking it. I saw it coming right over, you guys. And it was just, I'm glad that we're doing the gig, that I'm speaking to you, that you're intact.
Yeah, and we are super happy to be intact, too. I had no idea you'd gone through Katrina, but thankfully you made it out of that just great. And the Pilgrimage Music Festival you just mentioned, that has been a huge thing for years now. You've had Justin Timberlake and the Foo Fighters and Chris Stapleton, Dave Matthews. You just come up with that out of nowhere and decide, I want to have a festival?
Man, you know, like a lot of things, we all sit around with our buddies saying, man, we need to do this. Why don't we do this? And then you don't do it, you know. And I just had this moment where I was taking a run from my house. It was the day after Thanksgiving, and I was catching my breath at this farm that's in the middle of Franklin. It's a 250-acre farm on the historic register. And I just opened my eyes. I was like, wait a second. This is the most beautiful setting for a festival I've ever seen, and no one's doing it here. And I ran home to my buddies. That was November of 2013, and we started Pilgrimage Festival, and it's been amazing.
I gotta say, last time I was in Nashville, it's beautiful, but the fact that most of that area is down in that valley of all the hills and the humidity just sits on top of you, it's got to get a little toasty at the festival.
It's got to get a little what? You broke up.
It's got to get a little toasty, a little warm at that festival with all those people and all that heat and humidity there in the Nashville area.
We're at the end of September, so it's crisp and it feels great. That's fall in Tennessee, you know. So we have brilliant weather.
Well, that's awesome then, because when I was there, I think it was July, and it was a little warm downtown Nashville. And I'm from Florida, so that's saying a lot.
Yeah, look, I'm from New Orleans, so I know we have a similar meter for how we judge heat and humidity, so I can sympathize.
When Better Than Ezra started, you guys started in '88, and of course you launched nationwide in '95, but you were playing around the area, sort of the college circuit there in the early 90s, which had to have just been a blast in that, because I missed the 90s era of the excitement of discovering new bands and new music, and you guys were a part of that.
Well, thank you. It was a really exciting time. It was when the old era of labels were around. It was before the internet. It was before cell phones and streaming. So, it was really about albums or CDs, and you didn't know everything about everyone 24/7. There was mystery involved, and you got a cassette from your brother who went to University of Georgia, and there was this cool band named REM. And you traded the cassette, and and discovering bands was maybe like, I don't know, like kids spend time on TikTok now. You spent your time just doing other things, and there was a real magic in that. There was so much music happening, in the Southeast, whether it was down where you guys are, bands like Sister Hazel and Matchbox 20 and Dashboard Confessional. And then, where we were, Driving and Crying, Better Than Ezra, James Hall, and then going back to REM and B-52s, and it was a pretty amazing time.
Yeah, I was actually, I started my radio career on college radio in a town called Lubbock, Texas, and it was around 94, 95, and we had, the Toadies were big, and Reverend Horton Heat out of the Dallas area.
I knew him well. Yeah. And we just had a couple of members of Toadies at our show in Austin.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, those guys are still out kicking it for sure, man. I just, that was one of those things like we were just talking about. You heard those guitar notes to Tyler or Possum Kingdom come on the radio, and you're like, it's on, turn it up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, those songs are... those Toady songs. Well, it was all about, a lot of 90s rock was about guitar riffs, memorable hooks on the guitar. And it was really unique to the 90s in a lot of ways, at least the sound. When we were in the midst of the 90s, we didn't think that in 2024 you could listen to 90s music and say, oh, that sounds like 90s music, but you definitely can. And, and it was super simple, straight ahead rock, and Toadies were a great example of that.
And Better Than Ezra's Good, when it came out in 95 and kind of took the world by storm, that was one of those iconic 90s songs it was sort of just the happy feeling of the time. Everybody was singing along and it had that riff.
Yeah, exactly. And my most successful songs have been simple songs, and Good has become a staple of new bands, when they're learning songs, easy songs, one of the songs bands learn is Good, because it's just four chords over and over, and using a distortion pedal. And it just kind of caught, Good was about I was really into Bob Dylan of all things, and how he just used four chords for everything. And that combined with a love of the Pixies, the same chords, and using distortion pedals to do those transitions, and the rising chorus and all that kind of stuff. There's a reason the Pixies documentary was called Loud, Quiet, Loud, because that was just the DNA of 90s rock, and Good was a child of that.
Oh, it totally was, and I think we covered it in my band, because I used to sing. That song is right in my register, my singing register, so I used to sing that song all the time.
Really, I didn't know it at the time, but it's just that perfect song to cover. It's easy to sing, it's hooky, it's simple, and it just sounds good, even if you can't play very well.
Well, and one of the other great things in the 90s, that one was sort of happy, a little goofy, but just fun. And then you also got to rediscover your favorite bands when they came out with something new. Like when you guys dropped Desperately Wanting, that was just like, it grabbed your heart and took you to another place, Yeah,
well, thank you. That was kind of the 90s. There was the kind of the fun, goofy part, like, Good and bands like Presidents of the United States, Lump, and stuff like that, And then there was a real part that was lyrically it was heavier and more emotional and visceral than I think you hear music today. Desperately Wanting is lyrically it's a really heavy story. But that was something, that was part of writing in the 90s. But that song has just stood the test of time. And when we play it, and we'll be playing it, November 17th with you guys, people react to it. And you can see people's faces light up, or it takes them to a place in their lives. And it's really cool to be able to play that song.
I think the songs like yours, like Desperately Wanting, it was often one of those songs that those of us who said the words that most of us wanted to say but didn't know how to, and so we felt our way through our relationships with your music, and it was just that was kind of the times then,
Well, thank you, man. That's what great songs do or aspire to do, and that's what I always wanted to do. You don't realize it at the time when you're writing it. You're just writing what you feel, but the best songs articulate something you're feeling, and music is this one common denominator that everyone can feel. You don't even need to know what a lyric is saying to feel it, the emotion of it. So to be part of a song like that, and we get to play it and affect people is a real privilege.
And speaking of songwriting, let's see, I'm talking to Kevin Griffin from Better Than Ezra, going to be Clearwater at the Capitol Theater November 17th, in Orlando at the House of Blues on the 16th, and in Fort Lauderdale on the 15th. Something I didn't know, and other people may not know, is you are not just a Better Than Ezra songwriter. You are a huge songwriter for an enormous list of other artists. You got some country singers in there, Chase Rice and Dierks Bentley, which that had to be cool.
It was super cool. Actually, you know what? I know Dierks, but I didn't know him at the time when he cut the song I wrote. I wrote that song, and then it just languished. And then 5 years later, I heard Dierks was cutting it. But that's just the way songs are. Hopefully you write a great song, and so often, a lot of times it gets cut. Immediately because you're writing with the artist. But sometimes you write a song, you're just trying to get it cut by anybody, and they just kind of languish around. But yeah, Chase Rice, I've had a lot of it's humbling to think about, whether it's James Blunt or Taylor Swift or Howie Day or Meatloaf or Blondie, or it's crazy the songs I've gotten cut by different artists.
And you're a huge songwriter. Well, you wrote one for one of my favorites. You wrote a song for the Violent Femmes, which, come on.
Oh my God. Issues was the name of the song. It was so badass to be in the studio with Gordon Gano. He is so cool. The funny thing was, though, me and Sam Hollander, who wrote it with him, we were trying to. He came to the session thinking we were going to write for somebody else, not for him and Violent Femmes. He had a violin with him. He came to a rock songwriting session with a violin, and we were like. And Sam and I looked at each other and we were like, oh, this is going to be some Jedi mind trick shit we're about to pull. But, when you're a songwriter, part of it is being a therapist with an artist. And you have to gently nudge them the way you want them to go, with a song sometimes. And so by the beginning of the session, he was singing, and then by the end of it, he was like, day after day. And I mean, we totally just, we got it out of him. But it was a really cool song. But yeah, it was Riding with an Idol.
Oh, man, yeah, absolutely. Anything that Gordon Gano does, I would have been like, holy cow, he sang Add It Up. I can't believe that. That's so cool.
I know. Dude, one of the best, truly one of the greatest debut albums of all time. That album, Killer's Hot Fuss. There's a great list of, but Violent Femmes' debut album, start to finish, everyone's a classic.
Yeah, that's. I know it wasn't their debut, but for me, that's up along the same lines as Love and Rockets' Earth, Sun, Moon, who I just got to see them live with Jane's Addiction, and I was like, oh, they did so many great ones.
Gosh.
Yeah, it was amazing.
The first Violent Femmes album was Add It Up, and that's their first album.
That was their first album. I was meaning the Love and Rockets album wasn't their
Love
debut.
And Rockets.
Yeah.
No. Well, they were in Bauhaus, right?
Yeah.
Weren't they?
In my mind, I've got this Love and Rockets, Violent Femmes like era in my head. That was that late 80s.
Right?
Yeah. And
We actually covered Love and Rockets. What is it? What's it? Don't know what.
So Alive.
So Alive. Yeah.
Yeah. That was their biggest hit ever, man. That was a good one.
Yeah, such a good song.
And it looks like you've almost written an entire album for Bare Naked Ladies, man.
But you know what? I have. I was a fan, and I knew that I busted my ass to get that initial right. That was probably 11 years ago. I got Ed Robertson from the band down to my studio in New Orleans. I'm sorry, this was in Nashville, and we wrote a song, and we just immediately hit it off. We're we're the same age. We love the same music. We're massive Rush fans, and it was a lot of fun, and getting to write their singles, and we've had a lot of success together.
I've also read
We have 1 more minute.
All right, I'll make this quick. One last question. I read a rumor that you have been known to bring some people from the crowd up on stage to sing some songs with you. Are you still doing that these days?
We are still doing that. Your sources are correct.
Score.
We are still doing it, and we will be doing it in Clearwater.
Fantastic. Better Than Ezra gonna be live here at Clearwater at the Capitol Theater on the 17th, 16th in Orlando at the House of Blues, and the 15th in Fort Lauderdale. Kevin Griffin, Better Than Ezra, thank you so much for taking the time. I can't wait to see you live. Hopefully we can hang out and have a drink together or something, bud.
Brother, it was awesome. Thank you so much.